Hey friends, you're wanting consistent sales when you're reselling on eBay, Poshmark, Mercari, wherever it is. Today's video, I'm going to walk you through a step-by-step that everybody can do to help you get consistent sales when reselling. Now, the overarching what I'm going to say before we get into the step-by-step is simply that it's going to start with you. In order to get consistent input, in order to get consistent outputs like sales on a consistent basis, you have to have consistent inputs, right? If you want to run a marathon, if you don't consistently train, you're not going to get there. You're not going to improve. You're not going to get better. You're not going to build those habits. It is the same with reselling. If you are not being consistent in your business and in everything that you're doing, you're not going to get consistent output. Now, does this mean that you have to list 50 zillion items every single day? No. Does this mean that you have to do certain things? Not necessarily. It means that you have to find a way to be consistent in your reselling business. Now, that's going to look different for everybody. So kind of set with that and figure out a way that what consistency looks like to you. It does not mean you have to list every single day. I'll link a video up here on why I do not believe that is the only way to make money reselling. It is a way to make money reselling, but it's not always realistic, right? So I'm going to walk you through a step-by-step that every single person can do to start building consistent habits. And once you start building consistent habits in your reselling business, you're going to start seeing consistent output, i.e. consistent sales. Hey friends, if I am speaking too quickly for you, do feel free to slow me down. You can click up here on your YouTube screen, scroll all the way down to playback speed, and put me on the speed that is most comfortable for you. Now let's get back to it. So the first step is going to be setting realistic expectations. And that means saying, I want to make more sales is not a plan, is not a realistic expectation that you can obtain, right? You need to sit down and set, well, you can do it standing up if you want. You could do it while you go for a walk or whatever you want, but setting up realistic expectations. Now, this is a Google sheet that I've set up. You don't have to use it, but it is an easy way to set goals. So either sit down and walk through this with me, or you can purchase this down below on my website. There's a discount code down below as well. It's going through the golden formula for resellers. So if you're new to the channel, we're looking at the golden formula for resellers up here. It's a formula that tells you how much money you're making or how much money you want to make. And once you have metrics to a formula, you can now go in and change and fine tune things in order to make the money that you want to make. And this is where setting the realistic expectations comes in, is what do you want your gross revenue to be? We're going to look right down here at your golden formula. These are your current numbers. And then you can go down here and set your goals. And it's going to give you a daily listing goal to know what you need to be doing to set these consistent goals to get the consistent output that you want to know. So I'm going to quickly go over this. If this is going, you're like, I don't know what you're talking about, I don't know what you're doing, I'll link a video up above that goes really in depth into the golden formula, platinum formula for resellers. But at a quick glance, we're looking at our sell-through rate, our active listings, and our average sale price. This is what makes up how much money you're making on a gross revenue. And you can come over here and get a little bit more in depth and then look at your net revenue as well. We're strictly going to look at the gross revenue for the sake of this video. But your sell-through rate, you go in and you type in your sell-through rate. Your sell-through rate is how many items you have sold out of how many items that are for sale. This is giving you an idea of how much of your inventory is selling on a rate. If you simply just say I sold 15 items, well, like what does that mean? 15 items out of 15 items means you sold every single item that you had and you were crushing it. 15 items out of 15,000 items, you probably need to figure out some different strategies and change your reselling life, right? That's why we do it on a rate instead of a quantity. This also, and then you put in how many active listings that you have, and on average, how much these items are selling for. I'm gonna move me up here because if you're not sure what these numbers are and how to figure out the formulas and definitions are down here on the right. When you fill out these metrics for yourself, it's telling you what you're making. You're making $1,610. That's currently where you're at. Let's say you want to make, I want to make consistent consistent sales. I want to be making $4,000 a month. If you scroll down here, down to your listing goals, so you have to know what you're doing in order to get to where you're going. What needs to change in your reselling business to get to where you want to go? And you can type in, hey, I want to get to $4,000. Now, you're not going to get to $4,000 from $1,600 tomorrow. You need to give yourself some realistic expectations. So we'll put in 6 months to get there. And now this is calculating if nothing changes, if your sell-through rate stays the same, your average sale price stays the same, and you're at reseller nirvana, so you are selling as many items as you're listing, you need 1,400 active listings. That means you need to be listing, including how many you're already listing at reseller nirvana, you need to be listing 7 items a day. And now that you have this realistic expectation, this realistic, what exactly do I need to be doing right now? You can move forward in building consistent habits. If you just say, I want to make more sales, and you don't know that you need to be listing 7 a day, you list 5 here, you list 2 here, you don't have a guide to get you to where you want to go. So first thing, I recommend going through that and figuring out how many daily listings you need to have, whether you use the platinum formula for a reseller spreadsheet or whether you do the math yourself. Go through and set some realistic expectations. From there, now that you know how many daily listings you need to have to get to where you want to go, step 2 is going to be making a plan. Write down what this means in an hourly capacity, right? So listing 7 items a day means you have to photograph 7 items a day. That means 7 times 7, 49, 50-ish items a week, right? And your number's going to be different, but you have to take photos of 49 items, or 49 items a week. You have to list 49 items a week. If you're cross-listing, you have to cross-list 49 items a week. You also have to source 49 items a week. You can't list items that you don't have. Sit down and realistically look at the time it takes to do this. Do you have that time in your life? Is this something that you can realistically, let's say that takes you 20 hours. Do you realistically, on average, have 20 hours a week to put towards this? And if the answer is no, then go back to the golden formula for resellers and either change the goal or change some of the metrics. And what I'm going to say is don't change your goal. Get to where you want to go, but let's do it strategically. So one thing that you can do is go through here and say, hey, I can't realistically list 7 a day, but I can realistically cross-list somewhere else. I can realistically run some sales. I can realistically send some newsletters to customers. I can realistically work on increasing some of my traffic. Those are all ways. I have lots of videos that goes into how to increase your sell-through rate, but those are all ways that you can increase your sell-through rate. So let's say you can realistically increase your sell-through rate in an hour a week, running a sale, cross-listing, adding some promoted listings, and now you're up to 15% sell-through rate. Look here, now you're only needing to list 4 items a day, right? Now go back through step 2 and say, hey, realistically, I'm adding an hour of work to increase my sell-through rate. And now I only need to source 4 items a week, or 4 items for each day. So 4 times 7, right? Roughly 30 items. Now I only need to source 30 items. And now I only need to photograph 30 items, 28 items a day. That's going to now take me 10 hours. I can realistically, on average, spend 10 hours a week on my selling business, right? So these numbers are going to vary for you, but it doesn't matter because it's going to work for everybody, right? Once you sit down and figure out your plan. And then I'm going to put a step 2A in there because there's a caveat of realistically, nothing happens in the world, nothing happens in your life, and you can add these 10 hours, 20 hours, whatever, however many hours a month or a week to your reselling business. However, that's not the way the world works. You get sick. You want to take a vacation. Your kid gets sick. A pandemic hits, right? Things happen. And so step 2A is to plan for unforeseen circumstances, right? And this is going to look different for everybody. I am a mom mom of 3 neurodiverse children. I am their primary caregiver. So during summer breaks, during school breaks, when they get sick, when they have snow days, all of that lands on me. So realistically, I do not give 5-day work weeks during the summer. I take it off. I work maybe a half an hour a day during the summer. So realistic for me, I know my unforeseen circumstances are pretty high. And so I go in and I create a week of drafts. I have a month worth of photos to send to my virtual assistant. I have 3 weeks worth of YouTube videos set up ahead. So when there's a snow day and a day off and a kid gets sick, which happened last week, these are all things that happened last week. I ended up, instead of getting a 5-day work week, I had 2 half days. And I still make consistent sales and I still hit six figures because I already had unforeseen circumstances into my plan. I have drafts ready. I have photos taken. I have inventory purchased ahead. I always keep a backlog. So if I can't go out and source, right now I'm working with someone who sources for me. So I'm always having it come in. Plan for the unforeseen circumstances. Now, before we get into step 3, if you guys do like this video, please do make sure to like, comment, save, and share. It helps push it out in the algorithm for more people to see it as well. It's also a completely free way to support me as a content creator. You can also consider joining memberships to support more content like this. Now, let's get to number 3. Number 3 is accountability. Once you have a realistic expectation and now you have a plan, how many hours a day is this realistically going to take you? And I'm going to say a caveat too. If it's taking you too much time, go back until you figure out realistically how much time you can spend on a day. This is going to change, right? This is a starting point. So let's say you say, oh, I can do 10 hours and then a couple, weeks in a row, you can't, you're going to have to readjust some things. But step 3 is accountability. Is now you have a plan, and how are you going to stay accountable? If you have this spreadsheet, you set your goal and then it comes in here, and you can you go down to the weekly planner, you can print this out if you like to write things out, or it's going to automatically update for you. So you can see here, I have the goal set to 4. And before, if we change it, let's say we change this back to 8%, you can see it's going to, I didn't actually change it back. I put a different number in. Control Z, there we go. Let's change this to 8. And this changed my weekly goal up here to 7, right? So it's going to automatically set that for you. If you don't have it, get a planner to write it down and get a piece of paper to track your goals. Because if you can visually see it, it's going to help you stay accountable. Find an accountability buddy, right? Find a couple of people that are like, hey, I'm just going to tell you every single day how many I list. Because if you're having to stay accountable to somebody else, it's easier to stay accountable to yourself. You go in here, you can click on, let's say I did 7 today, I did 2 today, I did 13, whatever. Go through and fill these out. If you're doing this in the spreadsheet, it'll automatically calculate all this. Okay, I did a few more on Tuesday. Now I only need 17 for the rest of the week. Set your goal at the top of the week. I need to list 7 every single day, and I also want to get 5 drafts. I need to list 7 every day, and I need to source an extra week. I need whatever your goal is for the week, and then go through here and reflect at the end of the week, what worked well? Were you able to do this? Were you able to manage? What can you improve? After you have gone through and stayed consistent for a couple weeks, you're on a good trend. You're going to keep these habits. But if you can't, and this is kind of like 4A, right? 3 steps we went through, but things are going to change. You're going to start with a plan and it's going to possibly change. You're not going to stay with it. If you're going through 1 week and you're like, I didn't hit my goal, fine. There's off weeks. But if you are seeing 2 weeks where you are not able to hit your goal, rinse and repeat. Go back to the top and say, realistically, what can I change to start to hit my goal? Realistically, go through and look at the hours. How many hours are you realistically working? It's easy to say, I can work 10 hours, and then you actually get into it and you're like, that's actually a lot. It's really more like 7 hours. Go back to the top and figure out realistically how you can hit your goal in those 7 hours. What can you change to get there?